On today's Domain Sherpa discussion, what launched this week that you need to know about because the Domain Sherpas are buying domain names in those top-level domains. Stick around because we got some fun ones. .tokyo, .mohe, .consulting, .media. Plus, .mohe says they're going to get 200 million registrations. What are they smoking? Smoking? All right. Next week we're off, but we're also going to talk about what's going into general availability. .wtf, .fail. We're going to talk about some bugs in domain name registrations that you may find at the registrars. We're going to talk about the scourge of the domain name industry being taken down by ICANN. And we've got a reader question. You've got an unsolicited offer for, let's say, $1,500 on a domain name that you hand registered. Should you push it to auction? Surprising what Frank Schilling said about this. Stay tuned. I have 3 sponsor messages before we get into today's show. First, if you have a great domain name and nothing to show when people visit, you're missing out on potential advertising revenue, leads, and partnership opportunities. NicheWebsites.com can build you a site quickly with a price option to suit any need. But as their tagline says, they don't just build websites, they build businesses. NicheWebsites.com. Second, if you're buying or selling a domain name or portfolio and you want an estimate of its value, Estabot.com is the place to go. Just like you'd visit Zillow.com to get an estimate of a house value, Estabot.com provides key information about the most important statistics so you can make an informed decision based on data. Finally, whether you're buying, selling, brokering, or financing a domain name, you need an escrow company that's properly licensed, bonded, insured, and audited. That company is escrow.com, and they've been doing it since 1999. Escrow.com. It's about trust. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Cyger. I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, and this is the Domain Sherpa discussion. Do you want to know what's going on in the industry this week from an insider's perspective? This is the show to watch because we have 4 industry veterans. From left to right, we're joined by Adam Dicker, CEO of DNForum.com and NicheWebsites.com, the company that will help you build, rank, and update your business website. Filling in for Rick Schwartz is Frank Schilling, internet investor and entrepreneur and founder of Uniregistry.com. If you haven't registered a domain name yet at Uniregistry.com, I suggest you try it. It's a wonderful experience. And on that homepage, they have a little round ad. If you're a domain name investor and you buy a few domain names or you have a bunch parked over at internet traffic or you sell through domain name sales, Frank's man over there.
Savan?
Savan.
Blanked.
Savan,
I owe you a beer, buddy.
Where's Savan?
Said fill out that form and let him know, and they'll set you up with some nice pricing.
Savan,
what's up, buddy? Good to chat with you this week. Savan set me up and explained how that process works. All you need to do is fill out that little form. All right, next up, Mike Berkens, publisher of TheDomains.com, co-founder of the Right of the Dot Consultancy, and founder of the domain marketplace MostWantedDomains.com. And Paige Howe, founder and president of the domain marketplaces JoeDomains.com and DomainOutlet.com, and publisher of DomainTipsheet.com, where you can find select unregistered domains for reg fee. Gentlemen, welcome to this week's show.
thanks.
Good to see you.
All right, before we jump into the show, because I know Paige is chomping at the bit for new GTLD action, I wanted to acknowledge a comment made by Rick Schwartz on last week's show and seconded by the rest of the Sherpa panel. Rick said, add a tip jar to the website, Mike, and take that money and then for all of our Sherpa feedback, advice, experiences that we've been sharing, and then donate that to your featured cause, the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center that's working to find a cure for cancer. I don't want to get between. I don't want Domain Sherpa taking money and then having to give it to Fred Hutch. I'd rather just put a link directly to Fred Hutchinson on the website, and I did that. And an audience member named TB then wrote this comment, quote, I've never posted a comment before, but I've watched tens of videos, maybe 50 over the years. Why is today different? Because at the end of the show, you asked for a donation for the Sherpa's time. I've used the Sherpa's advice to make thousands of dollars over the past year, so I made an anonymous donation of $300. 10% of my profits as a thank you to DomainSherpa, Michael Cyger, and all the Sherpas that share as much to help others. I lost my mother to cancer years ago. If I can contribute 10% of my domaining profits to cancer research and support DomainSherpa, I'm in. Thank you all. So I'd like to thank TB and thank all the Sherpas, the interviewees, the panel, everybody for contributing to DomainSherpa. Thank you all. All right, first up, we're going to talk new GTLDs, Paige Howe, a.k.a. domain name extensions. Launched this week are .tokyo, .mo, which is spelled M-O-E. It's actually .mohe, if I'm remembering correctly. .consulting, .coffin, which is buy in German, .media, .associates, .lease, and .pictures. Everyone likes to know what the Sherpas think are valuable. So they want to know if you personally have registered any domain names in these top-level domains. Clearly, if you don't like a top-level domain, if you're not buying any domain names, speculating in this space, you're not going to register any domain names. So, Mike Berkens, let's start with you.
Yes, sir.
I believe you have registered some domains in these new TLDs. Have you not?
I did. I registered quite a few in media. .media, and then I registered a few in Tokyo yesterday that I wasn't really expecting to do, but I don't know, I just wound up getting, I thought, some pretty decent names, and I don't think I really did anything with consulting. I can't take any claim to any great .mo names, and was there a lease? Wasn't the lease out today too? I don't know if you mentioned it, but I don't know if I have.
I didn't have.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, .lease and .pictures.
.lease and .pictures, right?
Do you like
so
.lease?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you like .lease, Mike?
No, not really.
But you registered a bunch of .medias.
I did register
shared some with me earlier, but I wasn't sure if that was a confidential share or something that you wanted me to.
Yeah, I just sent it to you because I usually ask, and by that time I forget. So I just I sent it to you in advance. But
can I mention a couple of the medias that you picked up?
Sure. Like.
So, generic terms like fair.media, blogging.media, blogosphere.media, hollywood.media, broadcasting.media. I like .media also being in the media business. I picked up, my name, Cyger.media, because I run CygerMedia.com. I think I picked up one other media. Oh, yeah, because I live on Bainbridge Island. I own BainbridgeIslandMedia.com, so I picked up BainbridgeIsland.media. I like the .medias. You got newspaper.media. You got, some really generic words there, Mike. Are you planning on actively selling these or just holding on to them and seeing how they develop?
I don't actively sell anything, so to speak. I mean, I don't do any outbound. So we're all inbound. I don't expect anything is going to sell quickly, so I'm not a flipper. There's a lot of there's a lot of companies that use the word media in it. So, part of the problem or the challenge for me was to try to avoid companies, even if they didn't have trademarks, that had been in existence for quite a while and had been using, a very generic word with media. And so I try to avoid those and I try to concentrate more on verticals and topics. Like I have outdoor.media, which is obviously for billboard companies and such, and I think that's a really good name, and mainstream media and broadcast media. And so I try to concentrate on those kinds of names and try to avoid any sort of running into real company kind of issues.
Yeah. Mike, out of curiosity, was Worldwide Media a premium?
Worldwide Media is reserved. I actually have that coming, but it wasn't available.
So Worldwide Media being the name of your company, Mike Berkens, and right. I believe .media is one of the Uniregistry TLDs. Is that correct, Frank?
No, it was a Uniregistry application originally. We settled that. It was a multi-way contention at the time that we settled it. We settled it with 2 cows back during the time when we weren't comfortable with the private auction process. We weren't sure about whether that was something that was going to work for us and for our risk appetite, given the lay of the land at the time. So we settled that. It was three-way connection, I believe, and we settled it our 1-1 with 2 cows first. And then we acquiesced on it. It was left with 2 cows and donuts. And we actually thought 2 cows was going to win that, just based on the way that the settlement went, without betraying any confidences there. And then we were surprised that donuts won it, but obviously they won more.
So does that mean that that Uniregistry got paid for dropping out of the contention on .media?
That's one way. We didn't. No money changed hands, but we did. Receive. We in the interest of trying to resolve it, we got something that gave us an economic advantage.
Gotcha.
So, and just as a quick aside, did anybody just changing tracks for a second? Did anybody check if "Come In Tokyo" was a premium?
Come in Tokyo. I did not.
Okay.
I'm gonna go look it up. Hey Paige, did you grab any of these new TLDs?
Yeah, I mean, we ranked media, we ranked all the donuts ones for the last couple months, and we had media ranked on an 8 out of a scale of 1 to 10. So we really liked it. Much like Mike Berkens, we did check anything we liked against if Name Media, obviously, is a company in our business. So to go after name.media, I think you'd be buying just an address there as opposed to buying a company and saying, oh, I'm going to be name.media, because really you become name.media. So a lot of the kind of generics were there. So then we went for really generic. So the 3 that we got were men's.media, women's.media, and then organic.media. Just trying to be almost so generic that it would be a content site as opposed to brandable. And then we actually bought more media.coms when we started looking a lot of words at keyword plus media.com, and still kind of like those. If that name, even if it was maybe 1/20th of the .media, we still felt like it would be better to go with especially a brandable. And so we did a search for media.coms about some of those. That's the only one I did this week is .media.
Gotcha.
Quick data point. .pictures is actually this morning was outperforming .media in terms of registrations in registry. So just on our little registrar, which is it doesn't have a huge footprint, but we were seeing greater performance on .pictures than we were on .media.
All right. Hey, and Frank, I don't know if it's going to be the case tomorrow morning when this airs, but Comein.Tokyo is available at GoDaddy for $16.99. It's probably available for even less at Uniregistry. Let me go over there and check that out. Hey, Adam, let's go over to you. Have you registered any of these .media, .pictures, .Tokyo, any of these new TLDs?
I'm unmuted now. Yeah, no, I like the pictures, as Frank said. I like media and I like consulting. A couple Tokyos, but mostly I like those. And then I'm trying to get broken.toys, but for some reason it's unavailable. But no, I'm just joking. I like I did like consulting and media. Lease was also decent at pictures.
Yeah, but did you buy any?
Yeah.
You did?
I did.
Am I sensing that you're not willing to talk about what you bought?
That's a pretty good sense.
Now, why is it that you don't want to name a couple of the domains that you purchased?
No real reason. No. I just I don't really plan on doing anything with them, so
all right.
There's no real worthy of mentioning them.
Okay. All right, Frank, I just did a search at Uniregistry, and this is just anonymous viewing. It's Comein.Tokyo is available for $14.88 without any of the discounts or anything that you provide.
My colleagues will not snipe it.
All right, so whoever watches this show first, I don't know, maybe one of the other Sherpas will snipe it, but whoever watches this show first can go grab it. Because, yeah, what do you say, like, associate with Tokyo? I always say that. Come in Tokyo. All right. So early access with higher registration costs have just started for Reisen, .reisen, which is travel in German. I probably butchered that word. .university, .towns, and .toys. Adam, you mentioned broken.toys you can't get. Is that were you trying to get it at a higher early registration cost?
No, I just looked. Yeah, I was trying to, but it's unavailable. I think it's reserved.
Oh, okay. Yeah. .university seems like it's going to have the upper hand on .college because it's coming out first. Do you guys agree with that?
Well, a lot of universities go by university, and a lot of colleges go by college, so it's really going to be what they call themselves. I mean, University of Florida is always going to be University of Florida. It's not going to be Florida College.
Yeah. So you think they're going to have two distinct audiences going after each of those based on where kids or schools are name themselves?
Yeah, I think it's going to have a lot to do with today's naming conventions.
Yeah.
I think college has some generic aspect. Financial aid.college, going to .college, partying at .college, and I think maybe other countries might use the word university synonymous with it in that respect, but I don't think we do here in the States. I think I can hear someone in Britain saying, I'm going to university next week in a generic term, but I don't think we would here in the States. But if you said, hey, I'm looking for some college loans or something, I think college has a little more generic application.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you can get loans for university and you get loans for college.
And there's also schools coming out too, isn't it? And there's education is out.
It's school singular. It's coming.
School is singular, and then education is already out, as opposed to the EDU.
Yeah. Out of all of these, they're all going to have their place. And I think many of the good schools over time will take their string. I think it's going to really, this is going to be on the back of the registrars to get these names out over a longer period of time, and they will, because there's much more margin in these new names than there is in selling.coms. There's more demand. I think there's going to be demand from the schools to take them, but I think this is definitely a journey. Like this year, the registry, I think we've said it on previous shows, this year the registry is all preoccupied with getting out bringing these strings out. I spent most of my morning contention resolution. That's basically how I spend most of my days right now. And building the registrar, and then we're it's just the weight of the world on your shoulders, so you don't really have the luxury of marketing, but that'll come in the outlying years. This is like a moment in time. This year, I'm telling you, all these names are all going to be gone by next year after. There's much more demand, and I've said it before. Really quick, I'm not to go on a tangent here, but many of these extensions are really only good for span the dot. Morehouse.college, span the dot, where the name spans the dot or straddles it, or Hollywood.media, things like that. You're not going to get toiletpaper.media. It's just not good for them. So in that sense, even though we've got hundreds and hundreds of new extensions coming, we're not really adding that much to the namespace, the spectrum, because when you take out the span the dots, there really isn't that much more extra inventory except for the generic strings like .world, .group, .global, .link, those .web when it comes, .shop. You got maybe 6, 10, 15 big strings, and then you've got the span dot stuff, and then that's it. And between all the speculators coming out, new speculators, old speculators, new speculators coming in, these are all going to be gone. All the good stuff is going to be gone.
So Frank, back in /95 when a lot of the interviewees I've had on the show were grabbing domain names that nobody else thought had value, like Michael David Costello, who picked up whiskey.com, held it for 20 years and finally just sold it for $3.1 million. Are you saying that they're 20 years from now, some of these .new TLDs are going to have the same value that maybe a whiskey.com had back in 1995 when nobody else wanted it and they registered it for free?
I was going to tweet that I think some of the span the dot stuff will be worth more. Most of the span the dot stuff will be worth more than the .com appended version. So like Hollywood.media, I think will be worth more than HollywoodMedia.com. Period. You can laugh me out of the room, but I'm telling you, I think give it time. 5 years.
Mike's not laughing because he just picked it up. But what about?
What I just said there. I didn't say Hollywood.com would be worth less. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying Hollywood.media as opposed to HollywoodMedia.com.
Right.
It's going to take some time because right now nobody's on the dance floor. There's just that one ugly, awkward guy doing this. But pretty soon all the hot chicks are coming to the dance floor and then everybody's going to be dancing. And it's like that. It takes some time.
Is that me? Is that me an example?
Best analogy.
Is that me?
He's not calling you out specifically, Mike.
I think that's what makes it important for the viewers to match up their objectives and their time frames, because I don't think Frank just said buy a new TLD and you're going to make money next year. And so with Hollywood Media, you still have this .com. Say we were comparing them both right now. You have this long history. You have sales every week. You have all that. So, I mean, if you're buying something and you're trying to sell it tomorrow to somebody, don't tell the new TLD story. And at the same time, if you're trying to create wealth by getting somewhere that an opportunity like I did as just this little kid out of Burbank, all of a sudden I had this opportunity to do something and create wealth in the long term, then that's maybe this story. But don't cross the streams, as they said in Ghostbusters, because that's when it gets tough.
Super good point. But the thing is, that's the domain business page. You got to get the good ones. You got to be early. People were laughing at me when I was taking names like HollywoodMedia.com, in 2001, right? And then you back up the truck on tens of thousands of those, and that's like, the Gwar field in Saudi Arabia, still producing today, and that pays for all the fun and frivolity and fancy stuff, right? And to get those good ones, you got to be early. You got to get them early, and and to put it in context today, if you want to go out and buy HollywoodMedia.com, the owner is going to want $1,000 or more for a name like that. If you can get Hollywood.media registration price, at like whatever that is, and you can carry it for a few years, that's a good risk. That's just and the domain business is fraught with risk, everything. But you just got to take smart risks.
So Frank, you weren't one of the earliest investors into the .com investing space. You came along a few years later. Now that you're one of the first in the new TLD space, are you personally investing in a lot of these new TLDs?
So, I was going to leave a lot of these, but, as people were like, I said, I'm not going to take a lot of SLDs in these new spaces because frankly, I have my hands full trying to bring GTLDs out. But then I kind of looked at the space and I'm like, people were like saying, oh, Frank doesn't believe in new GTLDs. He's not taking any extensions. So I actually looked at it the other night and I was just like noodling around online, and seriously, I went online and I bought like probably 40 .cool names, just sitting there, just because I thought these are good .cool names. I'm so cool, you're so cool, this is so cool. I just thought, those have got to be worth more than just sitting there. Registration price at Uniregistry, we pretty low prices. I can afford to carry the renewals. It just made good sense. So I just sort of registered a bunch of .cools. And I'll probably go and
Frank, you think you're pretty .cool right now, don't you?
You get Frank is cool. You get that one?
No, I'm feeling pretty good about it. There's a whole bunch of stuff sitting out there. It's hard to know what This is very much a weird year because there is so much stuff, and it's like so easy to talk yourself out of it and go, oh, I don't even know where to begin. There's just so much. But truthfully, that's all going to get sopped up. And you guys are going to go away on summer vacation, back to school, back to work. Come Christmas, you're going to look and go, huh? All these used to be blue on the registry page. Now they're all saying, orange. They're all taken, And I'm already noticing that a little bit. I'm going back and checking the odd name, and I'm like, wow, that's gone. Somebody took that. So, every day these names get registered. There are going to be drops certainly in the future, but there's still a lot of good stuff out there.
And I'm totally one of those guys that goes to the registration page, types in a domain name, and it's available. And I think to myself, if it's available, it can't be good. So I won't get it. And then I come back, a year later or something, and then it's taken. I'm like, oh, why didn't I get that? I don't know.
There's still opportunity in .com. I was talking to my old friend Gary Chernoff last night, who was telling me he was reading some of the names he's been picking up, buying on the secondary market, and I was just like, wow, these are actually really good names. He's getting good deals.
Part of the reason for that is that a lot of people that are investing in the GTLDs won't have enough money for both. And the other issue that I was kind of touching on a little bit is a lot of domainers right now are very, very tight for cash, for whatever reason it is. Now, probably it's because they're just buying domain names and waiting for that $1 million sale to come in, and it's not coming in right away. And I think, and I wanted to touch on this, I don't know how I was going to get to it, but they need to realize they need to build businesses. Even if they build one business, at least they'll have residual cash flow coming in every month to help pay for those renewals and everything else. But domain names are hard to just sit on and sell unless you built up some good cash flow and you're doing well. And if you're thinking short term, it's never going to happen so easily.
Sales are stronger than they have been, but they're unpredictable. We're in the middle of summer. You can have a soft month in July, right?
Yeah.
you're careful, you got to manage your cash flow. If you're not careful, it can take you.
One of the things I've noticed the last 3 years is that it hasn't been so quiet in the summer for sales. Before that, it's been ridiculously quiet. For like 8-10 years before that, it was quieter. But now, the last 3-4 years, maybe it's because my domains are better, but I'm getting a lot more sales and a lot more inquiries. So who knows?
Yeah, I think things have picked up on the sales front, no doubt. I think the market's more mature for domain names than it has been, and as more of these new names get picked up, it's almost actually with the launch of GTLDs, we've noticed com sales pick up. It's the opposite of what you would have expected. And I think there is that. I think people are in time going to come to the realization that there isn't that much more inventory. Because by the time you take out the registry asset premiums, right? By the time you take out the early access premiums at a significant premium price, by the time you take out the stuff that makes sense and all you're left with is span the dot stuff, and and a few good viable generic extensions that have yet to reveal themselves, which those are. We clearly hope .link is one, but there are going to be many others that come out, and but I think the spectrum is smaller than people think, and even with round 2 and 3, you got to remember the best strings have been applied for in round 1, right? Everybody gave it their best shot for what they'd like to sort of apply for round 1. So.
Well, to your point about .com sales increasing, I think that's going to be the case personally for like at least the next 5-10 years. My CTO and I have a project that we are going to be working on coming up. We wanted to use a .club because a single word .club made perfect sense for us. So I bought that one aftermarket from the owner, and then I bought the plural as a defensive .club, and then I bought 2 .com domain names. Because people are going to make the mistake for some period of time. They're going to type in .com, even though I want to use the shorter spanning the domain name. So, an example right there, very simple. 2 .com sold in an extra .club that I didn't necessarily want, quote unquote, but bought them for protective purposes.
I'd like to take 2 seconds and address Frank's point about everybody took their best shot at the GTLDs in round 1. I think round 1 was also a learning experience for everybody that either took a shot or sat on the sidelines. So I would think round 2 is actually going to be better than round 1, even though a lot of the extensions may be missing. I personally have about 6 that I want to go after. So I think round 2 is going to be even better than round 1, which is only going to push the sales of round 1 as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean,
there might be more. I think there might be more in round 2 that come out, like Adam's talking about, with a plan and ready to go, and some pre-launch work, and ready to go, as opposed to maybe just letting them out and then seeing if they germinate and seeing if they grab root. I think I see some people more focused in round 2.
So for anybody that doesn't have the context, let me just set the stage. The ICANN is done evaluating all of the 1,930 new GTLD applications from 2012. That's considered round 1. At some point in time, they will open up another application round that you guys are referring to as round 2, where new strings will be launched. Frank is saying maybe all the best strings are gone, and maybe round 2 won't bring any more excitement than round 1 did. Adam, you're not agreeing with that.
No, I love him, but I disagree. I think even Frank is going to learn from round 1, and he may decide to go after some other ones in round 2. I'd be surprised if he didn't.
What do you think round 2 is going to be, Frank?
Well, think about it, though. Like the dot shop is gone. It's around 1 string. Or .web. These classical, obvious, big outlier strings are all gone. There's stuff that's left between the raindrops. Nobody applied for .gym, right? Nobody applied for a whole bunch of stuff. I don't want to say them all on the show here, but there's a bunch that nobody applied for.
Yeah, don't say them all. Don't say them all.
But they will get applied for in round 2. And I don't know that there will be a round 2. I think it just may be an open round where you can apply anytime.
That'll be, Frank?
Sorry?
When do you think that might be? When do you think it might?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there's definitely, I'll tell you, there are definitely applicants, existing applicants without naming names, who have said in private quarters they want to try to close the door behind round 1 to give us all a runway to succeed. And then there are brand holders who are like, well, we missed our opportunity. Like Mercedes didn't apply for .Mercedes or .Benz, but there's a BMW, there's a .Audi. So you can imagine that there are brand holders who are like, hey, we missed this boat. We'd like to have a chance. There are people pushing for a brand-only round. But I expect, there's a lot of money at stake here. And, in the end, there's, interest in open competition and lots of other comers who would like to get in there to throw their hat in the ring. I would expect, and there's now an ICANN staffer, we know, that is working exclusively on round 2 or the process for that. There's somebody that's been hired to work on that role, we've heard through our contacts. So if that's the case, I'd expect there's an exact, it has to be 2 years after the last, but there could be an ICANN meeting where they change that rule 2 years after the last. So to answer your question, 2016 at the earliest, which everybody else, which many of my colleagues would say, oh, that's too soon. But more like 17 or 18. So it's still a little while off. But again, it's not going to, at best, you're going to have a bunch more span the dot stuff. If there's a successful outlier, let's say dot something singular is going to be really huge. Let's go apply for the dot plural of that. Then there's going to be a fight about, oh, they're just pawning off our success in the singular. So there's a whole bunch of stuff to be worked out there. But it's going to come. You're going to have another round of generics in the future. Your children's internet is going to look totally different with a lot more span the dot names than today. And that's why I've always said, in the future, .com will be like AM radio. It'll still be popular. It'll still be well known. It'll be the biggest single string. But there's going to be a much bigger spectrum. I think we can all kind of see that now. It doesn't look, that statement doesn't look as kooky on today's show as maybe the first time I said it, a couple of years ago.
Quick break from 3 sponsors of today's show. First, are you tired of being upsold and cross-sold when you buy or renew a domain? Then try the newest registrar being built from the ground up with a beautiful interface, competitive pricing, and 24/7 support. Uniregistry.com will surprise and delight you. The right domain can change your life. Uniregistry.com. Second, investing in Chinese domains is crazy hard without expert native language advice. Now, as a service to the Western domainer community, TLD Registry offers ChineseLandRush.com. Using ChineseLandRush.com will help you invest in Chinese domains with confidence and without knowing a word of Chinese. Finally, MediaOptions is a boutique domain brokerage firm that gets results. They've specialized in helping companies acquire and sell high-value domain names since 2005, with a client list ranging from funded startups to Fortune 500 corporations. Visit MediaOptions.com to learn more. So, we're going to be off next week on the show. I know. Cue the disappointing sound, Adam. Darn it, he wasn't ready.
That was bad.
That was bad. So I wanted to give a heads up for a couple of domain names that are going general availability next week. We've got .wtf, which stands for what the frick. We've got, maybe not frick, I don't know, .fail, .financial, and .limited. First off, do you think ICANN.wtf or ICANN.fail will be available, or is that one of the words that's being held back as registry reserved or ICANN reserved?
That's the block. That's a block.
That's blocked?
That's on Page's block. That's the Page block list.
Yeah. All those block list names will come eventually, available eventually.
Sure they will.
That's the block, like your luck Olympics. And
the reason those are blocked, those are part of the alternative path to delegation, the APD lists. So the idea was you could either get to market right away, or or the registry could say, we're going to wait for this unblocking issue to get resolved, and we'll all at some future point in time get our delegation. So everybody who runs a GTL is like, no, let's get delegation now, and then in the future we'll do we'll resolve the block stuff when we resolve it. I expect all those blocks will come available, but I bet a lot of them will wind up being registry reserved as registry assets or some kind
given back to the people who originally registered them.
Yeah, that could happen as well.
So it seems like there's going to be some gems in there for parody sites, for freedom of speech websites. Do you guys like the WTF and .fail extensions?
I do. I think they're going to be successful. I think they're going to get used over time. I think they're going to be one of those catchy outliers, and I think .sucks wind up mired in in difficulty for a while.
Do you think that they're going to be cool and catchy, or do you think that companies and trademark owners are just going to register their names for defensive purposes, and for that reason they'll be successful?
I think in this entire process, I mean, we've got like tens of thousands of names in the Trademark Clearinghouse. We've got nothing that's been taken really out of the Trademark Clearinghouse. People put in their claims notes, but then they haven't registered. I think the brands have really, kind of missed it here. I don't think they're going to take many of their company names. I think people are going to wind up taking them and putting up fail and WTF sites.
I don't think that I mean, how many registrations they get and, whether the registry is successful or not is one issue. But, I mean, as a domain investor, personally, I just don't see, WTF or .fail or .ripe, which is already launched, as being, investable and, investable assets. I mean, there's too many other good extensions out there. Personally, it's my opinion.
Yeah.
Not to say people won't register it and use it. I can't imagine, buying it on the basis of trying to sell it for serious money down the line.
Yeah. Is the .limited mainly going for, companies that use limited in their name? I don't understand what the need for the .limited. I understand there's a lot of companies called, Worldwide Media Limited, or, Dewey, Cheatham and Howe Law Firm .limited, or limited as an example. But, like, is there any other? I can't see any other use for limited. Do you guys see any?
There's the limited. It's a big store.
Oh, the .limited, yeah.
I think you could have this domain is .limited.
Maybe somebody can trick them into getting a .limited instead of registering their company for $30 or whatever.
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's an outgrowth. I mean, there were applications for .inc and .llc.
Right.
And the one in Germany, the GmbO, I think. And so maybe limited might be sort of those other ones ran or still have some issues involving Secretary of States and issues whether or not, company Worldwide Media, .inc could really be registered unless you had a company with that name registered somewhere in the United States, for example. So maybe it's along those lines. There's a lot of LTDs, but I'm not sure if they're referred to as limited. So
you don't refer to LTDs as limited?
Well, you do, but I don't know if you would write it out if your actual name was LTD.
Right. Got it.
I don't know. What do you think, Frank? I don't know about that one.
Yeah. Tough to say. I mean, I don't think people would write it out. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree. And I don't think that's it's going to be tough to see whether companies jump on those, corporate ending type extensions as their, first choice, or whether, there's a lot of choice there. You can do it this way, or you can do it that way. You can, become worldwide.media, or you can become worldwidemedia.inc. There's a lot of ways to play it, which is really what this is all about, giving people choice. And it's, a lot of extensions here, a lot of different stuff still to come. And I think the people are going to decide. That's the beautiful part.
Yeah.
Are going to decide what way they want to have it.
All right. Well, are the people going to decide that .mohe, which is spelled .moe, which launched on Tuesday, will they hit 200 million registrations as their press release predicted? Does anyone think that want to comment on what their smoke? Hey, King.
I think that they will, .mo will be mo.fail on that prediction.
So it's just marketing spin, you think, Adam?
Oh, yeah.
I think it was all time. I think, actually.
Never say never. They could do something to create some kind of an outlier event to cause magic to happen. They could,
You mean give them all away for free?
Yeah, I don't think that'll do it. I think,
they could force every .com owner to take one, and that would be, what, 150 million? How many .coms are there?
113.
113 million. So that's not even 200 million. They have to force every single registration out there to take one, and they're still not at 200 million.
I would say it's bad marketing.
Yeah, that's pretty aggressive estimate.
Pretty aggressive. Well, pretty aggressive is .club saying, and I can't remember what they said before they launched. Like, that was aggressive marketing by a optimistic entrepreneur, and I don't fault Colin for doing that at all. But when you come out and say 200 million, you're either smoking something or you're just completely ignorant on how people are going to take up your domain name extension.
Yeah. In what time frame, right? You know, like in the long run.
Is there any time frame that they would have 200 million registrations, Frank?
Yeah, okay. That's
not in our lifetime.
Yeah.
It stretches the definitions of the word will. This will happen because I spoke it. And technically you could say that the limit on that is eternity. As long as there is time left.
But even if there's eternity, isn't there a
really
greater chance of a comet hitting Earth and destroying us than .mo hitting 200 million top-level domain names?
If they come up with a reason to own them, if they come up with a reason to own them, and I wish a registry would do this, come up with a creative reason to own them, then you do have a great business model. You have a no-cost product to give people based upon being part of a thing, just to be part of this ethereal thing. And you have a way to get paid, and you have a way to get paid, and you have a way to get paid. And I always thought that was the fantastic part of a new TLD was, you know, sell something else. Like Starbucks doesn't sell coffee; they sell the experience of being there in your third place or whatever. So I think once someone cracks that, where you feel like you're part of something by being in a TLD, and the way you pay for it is to get a domain, then I think we'll see some creativity and some great stuff. Maybe it's them, but I don't think so.
I don't either.
All right, well, let me ask you then, Paige. Domain Insight reported that the .tk registry has become the second TLD registry to pass 25 million domain names. So TK is the CC country code top-level domain for Tokelau, a tiny little island nation that's in the territory of New Zealand in the South Pacific Ocean. Netherlands-based .tk passed the milestone last weekend. According to statistics posted on its website, it's grown by a whopping 837,000 domain names in the last 30 days alone, Kevin Murphy reported. They're giving away domain names, and they're hoping that those who registers the domain names are going to buy ancillary services. Now, do you, Paige, you're just talking about, like, come up with some business model that or marketing plan that drives the need. They've driven some sort of need. People are registering them. They're not being forced on these people.
Well, I think people, because they've priced the optionality that you may get traffic and it may work at zero, then the price of buying, I mean, how would you buy an option to buy Apple stock at $10,000 a share if the price was zero? Yes, I would buy that option because it could happen and it doesn't cost me anything. So, I mean, it only cost me the time I spend saying yes. So to the extent that you could buy something for free and see if it works and never have to really engage in a commerce transaction, I guess you could sell a bunch of stuff. And there might be traffic. There might be.
Well, so 837,000 registrations in the past 30 days. I haven't even heard of .tk before.
Right, but if you had a dictionary and you said, you know what? Give me 65,000 dictionary words and give me the top 300,000 keywords on Google, whatever, and we'll see if it works. And if that costs you zero, maybe you'd do it.
Maybe.
It actually made the VeriSign, state of the domain report a few years ago for the first time, and I think it was the second largest registered, domain pretty much a couple of years ago already. So I've written some stories about it. I've met with Juice, and who's a very, very humongously big and wide guy, very nice, who runs the registry for TK and a few other CCTLDs. So if you go to the domains and just type in .tk in the search box on the right, you'll see some stories, including an interview with the registry from a couple of years ago, I think now.
I don't think you're going to see it with another new GTLD, except for maybe those run by Google or Amazon where they have deep pockets, because you're going to have ICANN fees on new GTLDs. CCTLDs have different rules that govern them. You don't have to take full contact information. You don't have to verify registrants. It's very freewheeling. Country codes are sovereign countries. You can do what you want with them, And new GTLDs are governed by different rules. We've got all kinds of things we have to do to meet ICANN requirements, and There are fees at the registry level, fees at the registrar level. So Google could do that, and they could absorb those, the 43 cents a name year or whatever it is in ICANN fees at the registrar and registry level. Exchange for a $12 AdWords spend. You get a free domain name with your AdWords spend, or something like that. But short of that, only ccTLDs have that option. So that's where I think you'll see these types of promotions.
Yeah, I didn't realize that the ccTLDs were under different rules than the new GTLDs. So yeah, that makes sense.
Free is a very good price.
Free is a good price. Yeah. All right, let's talk.
The price of watching this show.
Yeah.
The price of watching this show. Although if you do make a donation to the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center, good karma is coming your way. So,
Exactly.
yes. Let's talk about registrar bugs for a few minutes. Bugs continue to be an issue, but I don't know if they're an issue for everybody. I was notified by a reader named Joe Crescenzi emailing me. He actually emailed Mike, over at the domains as well, about his registrations of April.xyz, the month, or the woman's name, April, complete.xyz, and I believe one of the three-letter domain names he registered was npy.xyz. I'm not exactly positive about that one. But basically, he registered these. They had trademarks in the trademark clearinghouse. Because he registered more than one trademark at a time, the system actually allowed him to register them, but he only had to acknowledge one of the trademarks, I believe, at the time of registration. They went into his account, he paid for them, and then they later got pulled out of his account without his knowledge and were deleted because he did not agree to the trademark clearinghouse agreement checkbox that he needed to as part of the new GTLD registration process. I just heard from Joe about an hour ago. He had spoken with Mike from the CEO office at GoDaddy, and they acknowledged that they had glitches in their system. They found the root problem, and while he couldn't make promises about getting Joe's domains back to him, he said that he would investigate it and do everything that he could to try and resolve that matter. So, there are bugs that happen. I think a lot of us have experienced those on a regular basis. Unfortunately, probably more so with GoDaddy because a lot of people have registrations there, and GoDaddy deals with a lot of the new GTLDs and is promoting them. For example, Mike and I traded text messages this morning. I tried to register sixsigma.consulting at GoDaddy. It said it's available. It allowed me add it to the cart. When I added it to the cart, it told me the ICANN fees and some other fee, but it didn't have the actual cost of the domain name. But then it actually showed me the total, including the cost of the domain name. I hit buy, and it drops me back on the home page with no message, no confirmation, nothing except for a search box. So, has anybody else experienced this issue at GoDaddy or other registrars?
Not at your registry.
Not allow me to register Six Sigma Consulting. It said it wasn't available.
There's all sorts of. It was live, so certainly, I don't know exactly what it means, but it means something to you. So maybe it meant something to somebody else. So maybe somebody was just trying to get it at the same time. So if it's that important, I guess on the donuts, then you can always jump the queue and go into the EAP, and you would have had it on Sunday, I guess, without having to race for a couple of extra bucks.
Right.
There are all kinds of little quirks in this process. Quirks with the clearinghouse, quirks with different registrars and the registries, miscommunication. The biggest problems we've had, that cause the biggest issues is a lot of this pre-reservation stuff. People putting in orders for pre-reservations. We publish a list as a registry saying, hey, these names aren't going to be available. The registrar ignores that list or doesn't handle it correctly, says, these are going to be available on day one, and then customers are disappointed. Everybody's getting refunds. Nobody's happy. You guys are taking all the good names. It's it's a big mess. And if everybody would just pay attention and stay with the plot, we'd all get along better and everybody have a good experience. But the problem is registrars are all trying to out-geek each other for that land rush registration. They're all trying to get that customer, and it's a bit of a interests aren't really well aligned, and that's too bad. But we're doing the best we can as speaking as the registry. We're doing the best we can to try to smooth that, publish lists, get everybody on the same page, give information to the registrars. All the registrars get treated equally. We have a different team working on the registry side, to try to keep certain states so that there's no favoring of registrars, but it's still hard. There's miscommunication and hard feelings, and, because there's a lot at stake. I mean, if you can get that premium name at registration price, there's genuine value there.
Right.
But then I can't believe the best thing that happened to me today was I got come-in.tokyo right here on this show. Just sitting there in the registry. That's the best .tokyo name, period.
I think it is.
I can't believe that. I can't believe that wasn't a premium. So,
all right. All right. Well, I'm glad to see GoDaddy has a certain level in the organization that are treating these names as important assets, as an important asset class, and each domain name is individually important to the registrants, and they're raising it to an appropriate level to get things fixed. So, kudos to GoDaddy. Joe, I know, had to shout quite a few times in order to try and get some resolution. It shouldn't seem that difficult to try and get resolution to some of these issues, and we hope that they're able to work them all out. Next up, the Scourge.
What everybody think of Tokyo, guys, by the way? I thought it was surprisingly light.
You thought 10,000 domain names was not very, very populous for a major city?
Well, I mean, it looks like they have about 13 million people inside the city and 34 million people in the metro area, and of course there's millions of businesses on top of it. So yeah, I thought it was pretty light. I don't know what anyone else thought, but it was cheap. It was like $15 or something. Not expensive.
What do you think, Paige? Was that a light showing?
I've always been surprised that even back at the early ICANN meetings that Japan, you got to remember in 99, 2000, we were still coming off the Japan's going to take over the world. They're going to buy Pebble Beach, and that there's never really just been a sense that the internet is just terrific and huge. I mean, even JP names, when you do a lot of searches at the worldwide registrars, you see a lot of those come up. I think they have a residency restriction, but you're surprised at what's there in the English, not English, and it just seems like it hasn't really caught. And I don't have a sense of the local community in the local language, but there may just be a much higher percentage of the Japanese community that hasn't taken English as a substitute. So maybe that's why, as opposed to China, it seems like English is the language of business in China in some ways, more than maybe Japan. That's my thought. That's just a thought.
Frank, did you just register comein.tokyo?
I did register comein.tokyo. Pennies from heaven, all over again.
I can't see your name, but I did see privacy.link customer. All right, you called it. You get your choice. All right, next up, the scourge of the domain name industry has been taken down. As Andrew Ulliman over at DomainNameWire.com reported, ICANN has finally managed to suspend a scourge of the domain name registration business, Brandon Gray Internet Services, DBA Namejuice.com. They're the ones that send the letters, the physical U.S. Postal Service letters to you saying your registration for whatever domain name is come due. You must renew, fill out this form, and pay Domain Registration Services of America or something like that.
Canada. We have them here.
You have your own in Canada? Yep.
They're from Canada originally.
Oh. That's great to know.
Say about 15 minutes from here.
I'm surprised you haven't gone there with a bat. There are companies out there that do the exact same thing for trademarks. You register a trademark, and they send you the letter saying, buy our protection or buy our whatever.
I just got one of those from a company, and they're like legit companies that are like publicly traded. I don't know how they get away with it.
I know, right? And this is what I've wondered for years. Every time I get one of those, and I buy my domain name at, wherever for $10 and they send me this renewal for $200, how is that not, you can stop all these spammers from calling you. You can sue them. You can do all this stuff, but you can't stop them from sending this letter that's clearly trying to trick you into thinking you have to pay more money to keep the domain name.
I don't know if it's even clearly trying. I mean, they've already been sued a few times. They've lost a few different cases, but the bottom line is they make a ton of money off of this, and they have plenty of money to fight it and delay it forever. And I'm not sure they're really tricking you because they've got a lot of the whole back of the letter is fine print, and it covers their ass on everything from their previous lawsuits. So they do cover their ass, but the bottom line is they're trying to get a hold of businesses that don't understand, think they're going to lose it, and they'll pay the $35 a year instead of the $10.
Yeah.
So, but they've got a ton of disclaimers. I can scan one and send you if you don't have one.
Yeah, I probably have one. Hey, Mike, do you think that that they're actually going to take away their registrar status so they won't be able to sell domain names and make money anymore? What are the chances?
Well, I mean, they've listed a bunch of defaults, and you know, like if they don't cure them, then they've done it before. So I don't see why they wouldn't do it in this case. I mean, the thing's been around, you know, sending out, you know, mail for what, 10 years or more?
Yeah,
so,
2000. It goes back to 2000.
So I mean, nice, you know, nice if they shut it down, you know, 14 years too late maybe, but.
Well, the wheels of justice move slowly, but they do move, you know, and you know, karmic payback, whatever you want to call it, stuff looms large. I think it'll, you know, we'll see what happens. People, they have an opportunity to cure their compliance breaches, and if they're running a lucrative enough business, they probably will. I know I've gotten those letters in the early years, and then they realized I'm a larger registrant, so they deleted duplicate, you know, emails finally. So I watched the evolution of the company a little bit as they learned, and the notices changed and so on. I still get emails from time to time on outlier accounts that they haven't scrubbed yet, that they don't know are mine, but I'll get, you know, a bunch of them as we all do.
Maybe we should send them a notice pretending to be ICANN with a K and say if they don't renew their registry for $120,000, we're shutting them down.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
That is a good idea.
I'd like to see that letter posted, sir.
This is a joke we do it. We don't even actually, I mean, it's not tied to anybody. It's just a joke.
That's a beautiful thing. Your registrar accreditation has lapsed. I'm sorry. The opportunity to potentially review whether or not your registrar accreditation has lapsed. And then
or please meet us at the corner of blank and blank so we can meet you for coffee and discuss your registration. And then you send everybody there to get them.
There you go.
Yeah. I just looked up ican.com with a K, and Justin Godfrey owns it. So maybe we could work something out where we make it look really official with the website as well.
They're in Canada, and I think I have udrp.ca, so we can use that.
We can do that. All right, we got a reader question from the audience. It comes from Mike, who wrote as a comment on the previous show, I have an unsolicited offer for $1,500 for a .com domain name that I think is worth a lot more. Does it make sense to just push it to GoDaddy auction starting at that price? Is that the way to settle on a fair price, or will nobody notice the auction? What do you guys think in terms of tactics to try and sell a domain name when you get an offer coming in?
I really want to take it. Yeah, I made my fortune by selling too soon. If it's you really got to decide whether it's a good name. If it's a really good name, an obviously good name, then yeah, you probably want to counter at some significant number and swing for the fences. And if it's you know, got an offer for my .com domain name, and it's really not that strong of a name. If they got a $1,500 offer out of the gate, I'm gonna wager that it's not a bad name, and maybe they can get 10 grand for it. 1,500, 10 grand to most companies, it's about the same.
Did you just start off saying that you made your fortune by selling too early, too soon?
Yeah, well, that's the old Warren Buffett quote. You know, I made my fortune by selling too soon.
Yeah. So
I would say, Mike, I don't think he can treat the GoDaddy auction process as kind of natural selection. That if there's a better buyer out there, he's going to find them by putting it on GoDaddy auctions and just trust. To use another Warren Buffett, Mr. Market will find that name and bring it to its appropriate price. I don't think they have, or Satan or any of the other ones has that ability. So unless he actually goes out and calls other candidates and says, this name is, the gavel's going down on it in 7 days with a firm bid, can you do better? I think just putting it on GoDaddy probably won't be an indication of him saying, wow, I thought I could get more, because chances are whoever would pay more won't just happen to be on GoDaddy Auctions.
So what I would say is, on an unsolicited offer of $1,500, you can always tell a lot about the buyer by their opening offer. And as Frank said, it's a substantial opening offer. It's not $10 or I'll give you what you paid for it kind of thing. So I would definitely never push a name like this to auction, because you would definitely be leaving money on the table. So I would definitely shoot a little bit higher and meet somewhere in the middle. I would probably counter this one with $20,000 to $25,000 minimum, unless the name is a real high-end premium name. Because for all I know, it could be planets.com and the guy's sending $1,500. So who knows what it is? We don't, without seeing the domain name, we don't know how much you should counter. But based on a generic, any sort of name, random name at $1,500, I would counter with 19K or something like that, and see if he's willing to get into the 5 digits.
Let's say that the reader Mike did say that he hand registered it a few years ago. So let's assume that it was available a few years ago for hand registration. It's probably an okay name. Somebody has interest in it, but it's not plans.com.
The hand registration part of it has nothing to do with how you negotiate this deal.
Right. But let's assume that it's not, a high-end name. Would you counter it $20,000?
Without knowing that, I mean, it could be, if it's a 4-letter.com name, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'd counter it about 4 to 5K, in the 4 to 6K in that area. It really depends on what the name is.
4-letter.com, I'd go a lot higher.
Just a random one like ZRQ or whatever.
If there's a vowel in there, and even if it's if you're getting $1,500 offer on a 4-letter out of the gate, then there's a lot more there. 4 letters are actually quite valuable. We sell.
That's good, 'cause I have 3,500 of them.
But one thing I quickly want to add is I really think that the auction model in general is a poor model for selling domain names, because it sends it's the exact wrong thing you want to do, because all of a sudden you got this name in an auction and there's no activity, so you can either shill bid against yourself and your shadow person, which is really not legal and ethical, or you can do nothing and see no action on your name, because there's not likely to be another bidder, because it's an imperfect market, and the other buyer is like, well, I don't have the luxury of time on my hands. Nobody else is bidding but me. So that's exactly the wrong thing. I don't understand the logic behind auctions in general. And in fact, that goes for NameJet, where it's really only other speculators in there. And that goes for GoDaddy auctions. The auction model is just wrong, in my view.
Also, when you push a name to auction, you lose complete control of anything to do with that domain name. And that puts you at a real disadvantage. So I would agree that I would never push a domain to auction. People do it when they have crap names and they want to put a phony bid on Sato so they can push it to auction to get an exposure. Other than that, I would never put a name with a $1,500 opening bid or any reasonable bid to auction, because you're going to leave money on the table. And at worst, like Frank said, you're going to piss somebody off by having them wait 7 days.
Exactly. And I would say that there isn't a successful person I know in the domain business, not one, who I've ever known, who uses auctions to their success. None of them. Auctions are for beginners.
They're for buying. They're for buying, not selling.
Exactly. And people who are curbing, crap names, and suckers, really, who have good names who are selling them too cheap. So it's a good place to buy, like you said, which is really unfortunate, because a lot of people are giving it value, thinking that auctions are actually a correct solution, but it's really the wrong model. Clearing transactions on names.
Well, if you buy a good name at a great price, and then you turn around and list it on NameJet, and you let the reseller market, the wholesale market, set the price, the wholesale price, and that's above what you paid for it, isn't that a successful model?
No, because if you have a name, like you said, the operative statement was your opening one, which is if you have a good name, you've gotten a good deal, all the money's made in the buy kind of thing, you got a good name. Good name means it's got some trickle of traffic. Mm-hmm. So you put up a placeholder page where they make an offer on this domain name. Within 30 days, it's like fishing. Your line's in the water. If it's a good name, within 30 days, somebody's going to bite. You're going to get an inquiry. The form's going to get filled in, and now you're negotiating one-on-one with somebody who thinks, somebody else could find this. Somebody could walk by this shop window. That's the correct method with which you retail domain names.
Yeah.
Auction, it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
But I don't know where to go to get one of those websites where I can put up this domain is for sale page.
Well, you'll be able to do that Uniregistry in December when our DNS integration is complete. In the meantime, you can use your domain name sales account.
That's what Savan told me when we talked. So that's going to be an interesting integration. We'll have you on here to talk about that. In the meantime, go to domainnamesales.com, sign up for a page. You can point your DNS at domain name sales and get a free this domain name is for sale page.
You can use others, such as Sado.com, which is a very successful service. However, you just don't have the same transparency of understanding where the lead came from, being able to handle the lead in the same way, being able to research the buyer. A lot of that information is there. But Sado is very successful. A lot of people successfully retail on there. I like domain name sales because it gives you all the information. It's very open platform, and clearly it's our platform. But I designed it. Hey, it's no accident. I would be using Sado today if it was a better platform. Yeah. I've got a bunch of domain names that I need to sell.
Well, and to be fair, there are plenty of websites out there, and you can set up a cheap little WordPress site that also says this domain name's for sale. I just say that domainnamesales.com offers it because you're on the show, and I might as well plug something that you have on because you're giving back to the audience.
It's a good system. I've been using it for years, so it's not just because he's on the show.
Well,
that's nice.
Yeah, I agree. It's also good. It's a good system. I mean, we created our own system, which is much less sophisticated many years ago for most wanted domains. But I think it's the point though is that you're in a much better position if you can capture the person's email address, IP address, and other information that you're in control of, rather than get in a blind offer from Cyger. Having no idea who's offering it.
Exactly.
Or how many people even removed it is from your broker.
Running any sales platform is a difficult undertaking. Keeping it running, keeping it well-oiled. There are a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of magic and art and science that goes into selling domain names. But ultimately, the auction model I think is one that's flawed for several reasons. All the reasons we just discussed, and you're not well served. You could buy that name, to Michael, to your point, a good name, and put it up on the auctions, and then another speculator. If you want quick liquidity, I think there is probably no better way. You're going to leave a ton of money on the table.
Yep. All right, we are at the hour mark, gentlemen. We're going to move into saying goodbye. Is there anything you want to promote or talk about, mention before we sign off for today? Let's start with Adam Dicker.
Yeah, I just have something to tease Frank with. Frank, remember these, buddy?
Right. Oh my God!
Adam
Timmy
is holding up a Tim Horton coffee cup, which is a big chain up in Canada.
You may have your heat, but I got my Timmy's.
Oh my God!
I got an email from somebody very validly saying, hey, there are people that don't watch the show that may have visual impairments. Could you say what the pictures that Adam is holding up, whether it's a horse or a coffee cup or whatever? So there you go, Timmy's.
Tim Hortons coffee.
All right, so you just wanted to promote Timmy's, or did you want to actually?
No, I just wanted to tease Frank because he's teasing me how hot and beautiful it is down there. But I still got the best coffee in the world, and he knows it.
It is so hot down here. I always say, don't bring your sunscreen. Bring your dental records. It's that hot.
Oh my God! What's the temperature now? 40 something?
Yeah, it's probably there's a lot of humidity right now. This is exactly the time of year to be away, a little bit. Take your vacay in the summer. Just before storm season. September, first weeks of September, first 2 weeks we get hurricanes, but then it's really nice. In the fall, after Halloween, it's gorgeous. Really beautiful.
All right, Frank, anything you want to promote, talk about, announce?
Nothing. Love all you guys. I've got. I wish I had something. We've got a lot coming this fall. Everybody is hard at work. You see people scurrying around behind me. There's a lot of.
I see the Tour de France on behind you.
That's right behind me. Berryhill was down here visiting, and he put it on. So.
All right. Well, then I'll throw out again, if you're a domain name investor, you want to try out the uniregistry.com registration system, and you're not sure about the pricing, or you're like, hey, $12.88 seems a bit high for a .com, click on that little link, contact their sales department, tell them what kind of relationship you have with Uniregistry if you have one, and they'll treat you right. That's what I hear. Mike Berkens, anything you want to promote, announce, talk about?
Heritage Auctions holding, we just kind of bashed auctions for a while, but Heritage Auctions holding an auction tomorrow, and there's some really good names in it. Bitcoins.com is sort of the headliner because of, it's the Mt. Gox founder, and the money's going to go repay some of the debt. So it's it's an auction that could hopefully put a lot of eyes on the domain name space, and that would be good for everybody. We're working with .club, and .club has a few. Is the only new GTLD registry to have some names in that auction. So if bitcoins.com is too expensive, bitcoin.club is at auction, as well as luxury.club and baby.club, I believe. So
And,
check out the auction. A bunch of other really good names for sale. I think DEC, DEC, which is the fifth oldest domain name on the internet, and some other good stuff, digital.com, some good stuff.
SEM.com, and that's at, I believe it's at heritagedomains.com. You can learn more. Last week,
HA.com.
HA.com.
HA, yeah.
And then last week, everybody on the Sherpa panel put in their guess on what bitcoins.com was going to sell for. Frank, since you're joining us this week, what do you think? What do you think it's going to sell for?
Bitcoins plural.
Bitcoins plural.
.com, and this is going through Heritage.
Yep.
It's tough to say. 80 grand if it sells. Is there a reserve on it?
There is.
The reserve is 250 to 500. Aaron told me.
I think.
Maybe I'm too low. Maybe it doesn't sell. Maybe it doesn't. Just because it's a plural, But there could be an outlier guy. If they advertised it in the New York Times, some guy, some investor guy who gets spellbound by it. Look in my eyes. Look in my eyes.
I think I was the lowest one on the panel, and I said, what did I say? I need to go back and look when it actually finishes, but I think I said 800 or 850,000. I was the lowest one on the panel.
The reserve, actually, guys. I think.
What was that?
I think the reserve is 750 on that.
Oh, is
That's
it?
right.
That seems like really lofty to me. I don't think it sells.
So you're going no sale.
No sale.
NS, no sale.
$1.
There's a $7 million market cap on Bitcoin.
Hey, here's a tip for you for viewers at home. Best way to try to make a buck, relatively quickly, is look at the sold lists of names that are actually selling, or hyphenated versions like bit-coins, and try to buy new extensions that make sense. If you can get something like that for $20. I did that last night. I was talking to Gary, my friend, and he's like, I sold this name. I got 100 grand for this, 200 grand for this. I was typing them in, and viable versions of new stuff were available. And I was like, you know what? That's too good not to take. If you got 250 grand for this name, then I'm going to take this for $8. And that's the business, folks. If you can get something at a discount, and you can see stuff that's selling, you can see the asking prices on stuff. It just doesn't make sense that something sells up here for like 250,000, 50,000, 80,000, 10,000, and that this down here is worth $10, $8, $15, $20. It's too big a delta. Either this one's way too high, or this one's way too low.
Yeah.
If they're actual sales, then this is way too low, and you should just get it at registration price. That's what I would be doing. There's money to be made that way.
Yeah. All right. Bitcoins.link. Let me see if it's available.
Bit-coins.
Bit-coins.link. All right. All right. Heritage Auction Mike's .club is featured in there. Some Bitcoin. Isn't Bitcoin.club one of the featured ones?
Bitcoin.club.
All right.
Indeed.
Let's see what happens there. Paige Howe.
So it'd be interesting to see if Bitcoins just helps them be like a rainmaker. I think digital.com, isn't that in there? I think that's a fantastic name. And you could have someone show up for Bitcoins and all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, kind of a Silicon Valley. So that'll be interesting to see how that works. So last week we announced this domain tip sheet. We put out a list of names that are available for registry. People pay a $10 honor fee if they take the name. And we actually did okay. We had more than about 6 out of 10 of the names taken get paid for, so we can't say that the people that took the other names didn't pay their fee. So for a Sherpa special, if you sign up for Domain Tip Sheet, we'll give you a free bonus list of the best .media names that we think are still available. So that'll be for the next 24 hours after the show comes out. We'll give you a list of what we think are the best .media, and you can send us $10 if you take anything as part of the honor economy. So thanks.
All right. DomainTipSheet.com. Adam Dicker, Frank Schilling, Mike Berkens, and Paige Howe. Thanks for coming on the Domain Sherpa discussion this week, sharing your insights and expertise, and thanks for continuing to be Domain Sherpas for others.
Glad to be here. Thank you so much.
We'll see y'all next week. Actually,
Thank
in 2 weeks. Sorry, next week we're off. See See y'all next time.
Thank
Take
you.
care, fellas.